In this lesson, we will add a jaw control, and we'll also learn how to work with the Reaction Manager to automate specific facial mechanics. Let's say we get started with our jaw control. This will be a really fast process. What we'll do is go ahead and create a circle. Alright, let's go ahead and take a look at our front view, and we'll go ahead and draw this out. Alright, great. So from here, we'll go to our perspective view, and let's go ahead and quick align this to the jaws nub. Alright, so from here, let's go to our Modify panel. Take a look. We need to convert this to an editable spline so we can start to modify its shape. So in our point mode, we'll go ahead and move this up and forward, and then we'll go ahead and start scaling it down. Keep it in mind, we don't want this too close to our lip controls. We want to avoid as much overlap as possible. Alright, this looks good. Let's say we go ahead and rename this object. That's going to be enum jaw 01. From there, I'd like to also go ahead and reset its X form and collapse it down. Now we can head over to layers and add this to our controls layer. Wonderful. Let's go ahead and make sure we're using the color of yellow we've decided. We'll also make sure that this gets linked to our head control. We don't want to freeze it just yet. We need to first go ahead and fix its pivot point. It should be at the jaw. So what I'll do is go ahead and hide the mesh. Let's head over to our hierarchy panel. Underneath pivot, we'll choose effect pivot only. And let's go ahead and use Shift A to quick align it over to the jawbone. Alright, great. I'll go ahead and now freeze its transforms. And then, underneath link info, we'll go ahead and lock down movement and scale. Alright, sweet. So there is our jaw control. It's now time to have it control the jaw. So let's go ahead and show the hidden layer. We'll grab the head's helper. We'll go ahead and clone it. That's going to be PTDRV jaw 01. And then from there, we'll go ahead and use Alt-A to align this over to our jawbone. From there, let's say we go ahead and drop the size of this helper so it's easier to select. We'll have this linked to our jaw control. And now we can take the jawbone and we can orientation constrain to our helper. Alright, so time to test this out when we grab our jaw control as we start to rotate. There we go. If we were to bring the face back, take a look. Awesome. Alright, so guess what? Basically done here. Let's go ahead and make sure that when we use transform to 0, it's brought back. That's great. We've already locked it down. We've renamed it. Is it stored in controls? It most certainly is. So what we can do now is go ahead and work with the Reaction Manager. So it would be a good idea to make sure we can automate certain facial shapes to help animators save time. For example, what if we wanted to create a smile? Well, right now we'd have to go ahead and grab these lip controls and mold the face into a smile. So instead what we can do is go ahead and use our groups. We could also use our envelope objects if we'd like. Again, we have a lot of control here, but we could essentially tie these to a custom parameter or to a control if we'd like. If you'd like to add a control, you'll know how to do that after we're done here. But we'll work with a custom parameter. That way we can keep this rig as clean as possible. Alright, so here's how this is going to work. We'll grab our jaw control. We'll head over to our Modify panel. From there, let's go ahead and add an attribute holder. Again, I've added it to my animation quad menu, so I'll go ahead and create it here. Let's go ahead and now right-click and choose Rename, and that's going to be Extra Controls. Now, we're going to press Alt-W, or excuse me, Alt-1, so we can go ahead and access our parameter editor. Let's go ahead and create a parameter named Smile. Okay, so once we've done that, let's take a look at our range, 0 to 100. That looks great. Alright, let's go ahead and now click on Add. Wonderful. So it's time to go ahead and show our hidden layer. That way we can start to work with our groups. Now before we add any to the Reaction Manager, let's go ahead and figure out what axis we'd like to control. So I'm just going to go ahead and show you this on just one group here. And that way you'll know how to take care of the others. And then by the final file, I'll go ahead and finish out the smile shape. Again, it's going to be really straightforward. If you know how to do one, you'll know how to do the others. All right, so we need to figure out the axis we'd like to control. So right now, we're taking a look at our local coordinate system, but let's go ahead and take a look at our parent space, because this is the axis we actually want to control. This is according to whatever parent this group has. All right, so it's actually the y-axis that we'd want to control, the x-axis, and we'd also want to add a twist. So we can go ahead and grab our rotate gizmo, and it's going to be the y-axis. All right, so for our move tool again, that's going to be y and x, and then to add a bit of a twist, we can go ahead and work with the y-axis. All right, so knowing that, it's now time to work with the reaction manager. Now, if we were to go to animation and take a look closer to the bottom of our list, right underneath animation layers, you'll find the reaction manager. Now, when we first look at this, it looks quite daunting, but it's actually really fun to use once you get the hang of it. So let's say we go ahead and begin. The first thing we need is a master object. So we know that's our jaw control. And more importantly, we need to access the smile parameter. So here's what we'll do. We'll click Add Master, and now we get to click on the object we'd like to choose as the master object. There it is. From there, we'll go ahead and choose Modify, Extra Controls, Custom Attribute, Smile. So there is our master parameter. Now, it's time to add our slave parameter. So we've already decided that the slave parameters are the y and x of our corner group here. And that's only in movement, because we'll also want to add our twist axis, which is the rotate y. All right, so those three will get added. So we have a few ways of doing that. We can choose Add Slave, or we can choose Add Selected. I like to use Add Selected because it's a lot easier for us to go in and already have the object selected to add our slave parameters that way. So we'll go in and grab our group, and now we can go ahead and click on Add Selected. So we'll search for Transform, Position, 0 Position X. Great. Let's go ahead and click on Add Selected again. That's going to be Transform, Position, 0 Position Y. And then just one more. Transform, Rotation, 0 Euler, Y. Wonderful. Now take a look at our start values. You can see how they're all at 0. And that's what we want because we've just set the initial state. Later I'll show you how to edit your values so you can get the exact value you want. But this is exactly what we want to start out with. Everything's at 0. All right, beautiful. So now it's basically time to head over to our jaw control, and then we'll want to set our smile to 100%. Once we have changed the master value, we're then ready to adjust the slave object. So again, after we change this value, we can now go into create mode. You'll notice that if you do not enter into create mode, any parameters tied down by the reaction manager will not be able to move. All right, but once we enter into create mode, then we could start to adjust this object. So we'll go ahead and bring this up. We'll bring it out in the x-axis. I'll bring it up a bit more in the y. And then we'll add a twist. So let's go ahead and grab our rotate y-axis and twist this a bit. And there we go. All right, sweet. So once we've done this, we can then go ahead and save this state. It's just a matter of clicking on Create State. And take a look, we see the transition now from our initial state to the change in our value, and we could also take a look at the values that we've just saved out. Awesome. So now we're ready to exit Create mode. We can go ahead and turn that off. And watch, instantly when we grab the jaw control, as we start to use a smile, take a look. We get this really cool smile expression. Let's go ahead and hide our hidden layer so we can take a look at this. Again, it's a great way to just go in and create a quick shape. So you can use this for, let's say, an O shape or any other shape you want to save out. Beautiful. And that's the beauty of working with as much control as we've been creating here. If you wanted to, you can push this further by adding the envelope object to your reaction manager. And then if we want to, we can go to our control and push this even further. How fun is that? All right, awesome. Now, how do we change our value here? Let's go ahead and bring back the hidden layer. Alright, so if you ever wanted to make a change, you'd basically go to the value you'd like to change. So I'll go ahead and take a look at the jaw control. Right now it's at 100%. Next, you'd basically go ahead and select the state that you'd like to change. So I'll go ahead and grab state 4 here. I'll choose edit mode. Now we're able to go ahead and adjust the group however we'd like. So if you found that, hey, I don't quite like how far this is moved in the x-axis, we can bring this in the x a bit more, closer to the center. And maybe we want to drop this down in our y-axis as well. Alright, so once we do that, if we were to go ahead and turn off edit mode, you can see the values have been saved. So if we were to go ahead and grab the jaw control here, take a look. That change has been saved for us. Awesome. So that's how we can work with the Reaction Manager to kind of automate certain facial mechanics to help animators save some time. If you ever want to remove any of your states, well, we have the remove option here, or we can wipe everything out from the Reaction Manager by using delete selected at the top. But chances are we don't want to do that. Alright, so I'll go ahead and close this out. I'll go ahead and hide the hidden layer. I'll also hide the skeleton layer. Great. We have the mesh there, and we've made sure to freeze it so that we cannot select it. We can only get to our controls. Speaking of our controls, if you wanted to, you could also tie the nose to the system. How? I'll go ahead and hide the mesh. I'll bring back the hidden layer. Remember the smaller helpers that we created? Well, they're free to move if you'd like. If you were to go ahead and grab your rotate gizmo, you can see it be the z-axis that you'd want to control. But watch, if we were to go ahead and show the mesh again as we start to rotate this, take a look. We can go ahead and automate this part of the smile if we wanted to. How exciting. Alrighty, so again, by the final file, I'll go ahead and have that smile finished up so you have an idea as to how to take care of that. But again, the process is really straightforward as we've just seen. So again, to clean things up, we'd want to hide the hidden layer. There are all of our controls, looks good. And the skeleton is also hidden. So by the end of this, we have this really nice looking rig that is able to perform to our expectations. We've learned some really exciting topics that can be used to help speed up the time it takes to create facial animations for games. And now I encourage you to take this a step further and push it for your own characters to see what other systems that you can come up with that animators will truly appreciate.